speaker is the Honorable Consul General of Pakistan in Toronto. Please welcome the Honorable Abdul Hamid, the Consul General of Pakistan in Toronto.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of God, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. Mr. Robert Fentena, Karen Rodman, Dr. Ali Malab, Colonel Nazar Saab, Mihaela Levis, Dr. Bangash, dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. We are marking the completion of 2 years of India's unilateral illegal measures of 5th August 2019 in the illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. No doubt, it was the darkest day in the history of the region, as it led to further disempowerment of Kashmiris and the prolongation of conflict there. In this background, we are gathering here today. The unprecedented, inhuman military siege and communication blockade in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir that started on 5th August 2019 while I was posted in New Delhi, that still continues till today. The crimes against humanity by India in Indian occupied Kashmir have affected lives and livelihoods and have threatened to erase very identity of the people of Indian occupied Kashmir. When we talk of human rights violations in Indian occupied Kashmir, we must know that more than 70,000 to possibly 100,000 Kashmiris have lost their lives as a result of Indian forces' brutality during the last 30 years. There are 7 to 10,000 of unmarked graves in Kashmir, in Indian occupied Kashmir. Thousands of Kashmiris have disappeared, tens of thousands have passed through torture chambers. Kashmiri teenagers have been blinded with pellet guns. Protests have been violently suppressed. For 8 million Kashmiris, Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir is a prison, a large concentration camp. The scale of human rights violations being perpetrated against them by Indian forces is unprecedented by any standards. Young men are being extrajudicially martyred by forces in fake encounters. So-called cordon and search operations result in burning of whole neighborhoods and villages. It is the implementation of collective punishment policy. 15,000 Kashmiri youths, while I am talking today here, are in prison. Since 5th August 2019, almost 390 Kashmiris have rendered the ultimate sacrifice. Almost 900,000 soldiers are deployed in this most militarized conflict zone in the world. Rape and torture are being used as instruments of state terrorism. 11,000 women have been raped. These are not isolated incidents. It is the result of deliberate policy of India. It is the part of their statecraft. The real objective of the measures of 5th August is to change the demographic structure of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir and make the holding of plebiscite impossible. As Karen Rodman pointed out, that the pace of demographic transformation and the issuance of domicile certificates in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir during the last 15 months has been far greater as compared to other zones of conflicts like Palestine. It is very much worrisome. The occupying force wants that the people other than Kashmiris are settled in the disputed territory. They want to make Kashmiris sons of soil, a minority in their motherland. This is the textbook example of settler colonialism that Robert Fentina was talking about. But when we talk of settler colonialism, when we read it in books of Noam Chomsky and Edward Said, that was about past. Settler colonialism in India is being practiced today while we are holding this conference. During these times, that was past, this is present. It means that humanity has not learned anything from that bitter experience of earlier settler colonialism in various parts of the world. The laws relating to sale and purchase of land and domicile rules have been changed for this purpose. The delimitation of constituencies for elections is being tailored to make sure that candidates belonging to one community win and others are defeated. As the mayors of the 5th August 2019 violate UN Security Council resolutions, international law, the 4th Geneva Convention, and even similar agreement between India and Pakistan, therefore these mayors are legally null and void. The 5th August mayors have violated several UN Security Council resolutions, including Resolution 122 of 1957. Why have I brought the reference to 122 of UN Security Council Resolutions 122 of 1957? Because many colleagues in Canada, Canadian mainstream citizens in think tanks, journalists ask me, when you say that India is violating UN Security Council resolution, tell us which particular resolution, which particular paragraph of that resolution. That's why I am referring to it. It's the resolution, Security Council Resolution 122 of 1957. You will appreciate that by 1957, UN Security Council had been dealing with Kashmir dispute for 9 years, and its view of the dispute had become quite mature and ripened, as it was based on the accumulated wisdom of various UN-sponsored formulas for the solution, different proposals, reports, and debates. So a resolution that was adopted in 1957 is quite authentic in that sense. According to this resolution 122 of 1957, I quote, "The final disposition of the state of Jammu and Kashmir will be made in accordance with the will of the people, expressed through the democratic methods for a free and impartial plebiscite conducted under the auspices of the UN." This is the provision, this is the law that is being violated by the 5th August 2019 mayors. The same resolution also underlines that no sham exercise of elections can be a substitute of the plebiscite to be held under the auspices of the UN. Kashmir is one of the most prolonged, unresolved conflicts that poses the threat of humanitarian crisis and genocide. It is clear that the world cannot ignore the regional and global implications of the change in demographic structure of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. The world cannot afford any longer the denial to Kashmiris their legitimate right to self-determination. The global peace and security in the 21st century is indivisible. As we have seen in the case of COVID crisis, that everything is connected. Even human security of the whole planet is connected. It is indivisible. Similarly, peace and security in the 21st century is also indivisible. The danger to peace and security in any one region threatens the whole world. It is time for the international community to hold India accountable for its crimes against humanity in Indian occupied Kashmir. It is time for Security Council to come further, to implement in a uniform manner its resolutions, irrespective of political consideration. The time has come for India to implement the Security Council resolutions fully. The time has come for India now to meet its commitments made by its leaders to the UN Security Council, international community, Pakistan, and above all Kashmiris. The time has come for India to repeal its draconian laws like Armed Forces Special Powers Act, Public Safety Act, and Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. Under these laws, Kashmiris are arrested without sufficient legal basis and they spend indefinite time in prisons without being presented in courts. These laws provide structural basis to the perpetual violation of human rights in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. These laws constitute the Indian technology of subjugation. These laws must be repealed. All mayors from 1951 to 5th August 2019 aimed at undermining the distinctive identity of Kashmiris must be withdrawn as recommended by the UN Commissioner for Human Rights in its report of 2018 and 2019. It is time for India to allow the UN Commission of Inquiry in Indian occupied Kashmir. It is time for India to allow United Nations Military Observer Group in India and Pakistan to operate in Indian occupied Kashmir. It is time for India to withdraw troops from Indian occupied Kashmir so that a plebiscite could be held there under the auspices of the United Nations. It is time for India to settle the Kashmir dispute so that 1.5 billion people of South Asia can live in peace and prosperity. A large number of world's poor people, illiterate children, and undernourished kids live in South Asia. One should dream of making South Asia a cradle of peace and prosperity. It is feasible, it is possible, and it can be made possible by settling the Kashmir dispute. Thank you very much.